Well, well, well. Good golly, Miss Molly. Here you are. You're back to see me again. I'm beyond flattered, to be honest with you. I've been on a million podcasts and video casts and whatever they're called. I don't even give a shit. I just care about whoever's watching to do the right thing today and feel good and help somebody that needs you. What do you think of that? I'm pretty upbeat guy. Anyway, welcome to Richard Lewis. I hate when people call something by their own name. So stupid. But I can't say welcome to me. So welcome to Richard Lewis, alive and unwell. And I am unwell, but we're all unwell to some degree. But I'm really fucked lately, the last couple of years. But you know what? I'm here, man. And you're here. And I'm grateful. Peter Frampton. My goodness. He's the guest today. They're not really guests. These are just friends, most of them, who I will be dealing with this year, or I don't know how long. But I'm enjoying this. I'm learning a lot about these friends of mine, and those who I don't know that well. Frampton and I go back about 35, 40 years. We weren't always living in the same place, but he's just one of the nicest, most humble rock legends you can even imagine. He's just the sweetest guy. And, he's just, well, I'm just grateful that he cares about me, man. And I care about him. So I'm going to let him in because I told him I wouldn't keep him waiting. You don't keep Peter Frampton waiting. Peter. Oh, look at him. Once again, my wife probably messed this up. I hope not. You got to unmute, Peter. He says, ask to unmute. Where are you, babe? Oh, there he is.
Unmute.
Oh, God.
Thank God for that.
Well, are you at some castle?
No, this is my womb in the house. It's my bedroom. So I've got this nice little area where I can sit and look out onto my green grass.
You look great. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Good morning to you. Yes.
Listen, by the way, it's great to see you. I miss seeing you in person. I've done this for the last month. You're already mocking it. I get,
Oh, I'm not. I'm just pleased to see you.
I'm pleased to see you too, but this is really not your typical, podcast. This is a desperation move on my part, not to go insane.
Okay, I understand that, and use me. Whatever you use me, whatever you want.
Oh, I've used you for years.
I know you.
No, I've run out of lottery tickets. No, I've been doing this, and there's no preparation. There's no beginning, middle, or an end. And I know that when I let you leave, or when you just leave screaming, you're gonna go, "What a fucking asshole! Why did he make me do this?"
Well, I might think that, but I won't actually say it. So.
Oh, you won't say it in front of my.
No, but I might think it. Yeah.
Yeah. What is that thing over your right shoulder? Is that a lunch? Is that an egg
is
salad
a
sandwich? It looks like an egg salad sandwich from here.
No, it's actually a little statue guy there. I don't know what he's
God.
doing there. It just
Oh.
he watches over me while I sleep.
But what is it? Is it a penguin, or it looks like a squirrel?
You want to see it?
Yes, it looks like a squirrel holding an acorn to its breast.
No, but if you do this.
Yes. Oh, that's what you think of yourself.
Can you see that?
You hid your ego behind the curtain. You have something like that.
There it is. Whatever that is, I've got one.
What do I have? Nothing. That's okay. You're the guest.
Well, you've got lovely pictures behind you.
I got Lenny Bruce, me crying on stage, and I got a picture of Jimmy there, and one of your inspirations. That's for sure. That I know.
Oh yeah.
I've been talking a lot about about gigs with performers. But I do know this. You know, you have a great biography I read a couple of years ago, and I know you, and I know you, so I know a lot of stuff. Not enough, but I was blown away. Well, here's the thing. I'm a huge rock and roll fan, and
Of course, yes.
I'm gigantic, and it kept me company for 50 years on the road. You know, hearing music in my ears, being in my hotel room just with the headphones on, going over thousands of premises and jokes for that night's show, and but I realized that, and I'm not boasting. This is I go different routes here. You're hip enough to figure out what I'm trying to drive at. So
Right.
I don't know what I'm. That I know you. I know practically every musician that when I was in college, I was buying vinyls from.
Oh.
And when I have friends now, who I might run into, they'll say, "How do you know Peter Frampton?" I go, "What? I mean, why shouldn't I know you?"
But do you know this? Do you know do you remember how we met?
No, I don't.
Oh.
Oh, don't. Well, you could say anything.
No,
I
so I had gone to my doctor in Los Angeles. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I think I needed a boil lanced or something. I'm not sure what it was, but anyway, I went there for whatever.
did you say boil? And that's one of the three words not allowed on this podcast. Boil, herring, and tongue.
Anyway,
not tongue from a cow. All right, go on.
I'm sitting in there's the lady at the phones here. I'm sitting right here, Dr. Fishman, and then sitting opposite me, reading or writing something. He'd probably seen this guy across the waiting room, and he thought writing something funny about me, And so he's writing, and then I look up, I go, you're Richard Lewis? And you said, and you're Peter Frampton. And I said, okay, I'm so glad I met you. I need a new shrink. And I thought you were the best person to ask.
Did I come through?
Oh, did you come through? Yeah, the best.
Well, I had a whole battery waiting to see. I had.
Well,
they had to pick a lottery ticket to go with you, but I did have good straight names.
Well, you did, because you had different time zone ones. You had ones you could see. You had different time zones. You had phone call ones, and you had, for that one to Sri Lanka, you had one there too. I'm not sure.
It didn't work out. Because back then the phone bills were over $100,000 for an hour session. But I hope I helped you.
Well, you will go on. You do go on a bit, on those.
Well, that's why you cut me off, and you can cut me off whenever you want, Peter. No, but what I was driving at is I know I think your first group. I mean, well, let's start earlier, because I remember reading about this a couple of years ago. You were very close with someone my age, and that would be David Bowie. I'm a couple of years older than the late David Bowie, the late, great, astonishing David Bowie. And you were in childhood, somehow you were connected with him, or you either knew him, or I think he knew your father, who had taught him something.
Yeah, no, he first of all, he was I was about 12, and he was probably about 15 at that point.
Right.
And that was the first time I saw him. He played in a band called the Conrads on the steps of the secondary school, the high school that he was already at and I was going to go to. And my dad was the head of the art department there. And at Bromley Technical High School, it was called then. It's now Ravenswood, I think. And so David and George Underwood, George doing the Ziggy Stardust cover, amongst many other things for David. They were both incredible artists. George is still he's a fine artist. I've got his pieces here. But anyway, so it was those two were in my dad's art form for 3 years. And so I went to the school on a weekend one day, and it was like a fair, they were raising money for pencils and erasers and things like that. And but they had a band playing on the steps of the school, and it was the Conrads, and it was David. or Dave, as we call him then. And he was playing sax, singing all the rock and roll songs of the time. It would have been 62, 60, yeah, 62. So he's doing Little Richard numbers, instrumental sax numbers,
Cochran?
yeah, Eddie Cochran, Little Richard, all that stuff.
Right.
And I just said to my dad, Dad, who's the guy on the end with the hair and the sax? He said, oh, that's Jones. He's very creative. Good, good, you know. So anyway, and then a few years, well, then I went to the school, and like the next year, I think, and at lunchtime I made a beeline for Dave, and we've been ever since with George, and we would go to my dad's art block at lunchtimes. He would hide our guitars in his office. It's good having the friend of one of the teachers, and then father, and then we would get the guitars out and sit on the echoey stairs of the art block, all stone stairs, big echo. So we would sing all the songs of the day, you know.
But since you were 2 or 3 years younger than David, he had moved on after secondary school, and you were still there. So how did he still hang with you, or was he already on the move?
Yeah. Well, like various stuff happened because he.
Can I hold you for a second? I want to just finish the thought I had said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not before, because this is really what I meant to say. Just as one thought, is that knowing the rock and roll, loving rock and roll as if I was involved in it, growing up in it, part of my DNA, like in your age, and then whenever, and then getting to know David, and getting to know you, and getting to know everybody I love. It freaks me out, but the reason is it's the kind of story you're saying. You guys start like at 5 and at 7 playing instruments. I mean, and by the time you're like 12 or 13, you're going, Dad, I want to go on the road. I'm going to China first and Finland. I mean, and I'm still like, you know, trying to figure out how to masturbate, and you're on tour. You know, that's why I'm sort of envious. I wish I would have started, you know, stand up like at 10. It would have been so good. Really. Well, take my rattle, please. You know, whatever I would have. I don't know. So let's get back to something that's more important than this shit. So you were hanging with him after he graduated.
Yeah, well, he was David and my dad and George, and the three of them and me. We were like the three musketeers. Really, really hit it off because my dad obviously gravitated towards students that were really serious about art.
Right.
You know, he knew how serious David and George were about art, history of art, history of architecture, the whole, you name the whole art, fine art, everything. So it's like when I got to do the introduction, it was like a little press conference we played at in London to announce the Glass Spider tour, which David had asked me to play guitar on, and in '87. And we played this club in London, and my parents came up, and that's when after the show, Dad and Mum came backstage, and they knew David as well as I did. You know, he was like a family friend. And so I looked around and I saw Mum, and I said, Mum, where's Dad? She said, oh, I don't know, love. He's gone off somewhere with David. So they were really close friends.
Wow, that's so cool.
And on the saddest note, the day Dad passed away, guess who was the first person to call? You know,
David B.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the kind of
he was kind of like an estranged older brother to me. In a way, he always, even on the Glass Spider tour, it was that brotherly kind of thing. He would look after me, you know.
Oh,
and he was a sweet man. And you know, obviously we miss him. He was incredible, obviously as an artiste, but as a person, people don't really know him because he didn't want people, because he was always playing characters, but he was the nicest guy. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no,
lovely man.
Lovely guy. I met him a few times, and one wild time I was at a party and I'm not name dropping, just where it's at, man. I was at Don Henley's house, and there was about 100,000 people there. And I'm sitting down
At
eating
Don
something.
Henley's, there was
Yeah, and he
100,000.
was still. This is back in the
Oh,
90s.
I see. I
And
see.
I'm sitting down, and then I'm sitting. I turned to my right and turned to my left, and to my left was Harvey Keitel or Joe Pesci. It's hard to
It's hard to
distinguish now.
tell.
I mean, I was clearly not sober then anyway. So if someone's going, "Hey, are you looking at me? Will you look at me?" I mean, I don't know. I think it was. Well, Keitel is another. I think it was Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
You know, they're all brilliant, but I can't remember. And David. And Pesci, the Italian character actor, let's be
Yeah.
kind here, was saying, "Do you think I should eat a pig in a blanket? Isn't that bad for my heart? Isn't this bad for my cholesterol?" Then I would turn to Bowie, because I was an art collector, mainly photographs, and and he was so artistic, and we started talking about, anyone in art history. I go,
Right.
when I went to the Museum of Modern Art and I saw an entire display. Should I eat this? Should I not eat? So I went. It was unbearable. And so finally, Bowie said, "I'll meet you at On the Rocks." It's a little private club on top of the
Yes.
rocks, on Sunset Strip. So I get there at midnight, and he wasn't there. I mean, we weren't. It wasn't a date. It was. This would have been fun to hang with him, to see if he would have. Maybe he would have. Maybe if going after midnight, maybe he put a little spray paint on his face and walked in with a cone on his head. Who knows? But he was just the nicest guy. Even I did a talk show with him once, and he came out and he didn't have to say this. He said, "You're one of the funniest guys on the planet." And to hear that endorsement from Bowie was great. So how did David, not forget David, but when you eventually got it together to leave your place and get out of high school, but you don't call it high school in England?
Yeah, it was the technical high school. Yeah.
Technical high school.
Yeah.
When I know that your first big break was this group called The Herd,
Right.
and I'm not sure how you met these gentlemen who were in the group, because I always met. I mean, I could look it up, but I didn't. I wanted to ask you, because
No,
I was your first.
it was a very small scene in Bromley, Beckenham, West Wickham. We were all local musicians, and
Bromley, Beckham, and West Wickham. I went to
Bromley, Beckenham. I was born in Beckenham, lived in
Yeah.
Bromley. They're 3 minutes apart by car. West Wickham, Hayes, all around that area, and so yeah. So I started I started playing when I was about 7 or 8. What was the question?
No, the question, you were like about 15 or 16 when you started, and you were in a major
Oh, in the Herd.
band?
Yeah, sorry, I'm old.
The Herd.
Yeah, the Herd. Thanks. Don't edit that out. Let people see.
No, we
how
don't edit anything.
senile I am.
No,
No, they'll see how senile I am. I'll forget the question halfway.
Peter, I got 3 minutes to live. Please, it's okay. You do this.
So the Herd. So anyway, I
Herd.
had been in local bands as in semi-pro bands before the Herd, and word got out that this young upstart was pretty good on guitar, and so I was playing with this band called the Preachers, which was managed by Bill Wyman, who's also another one.
Oh, shit. Wow.
He's the guy that really was the
Wow.
first well-known musician that I met, and he's like my brother as well.
I bet. And you're only around 16 or 17, and you're already at that
at
level.
this point. When I met Bill Wyman, I was 14.
Holy
and
shit.
I went on Ready Steady Go with the Stones, with this band The Preachers, with a song that Bill had produced.
What's Ready Steady Go, a TV show or what?
Yeah, it was the show. It's like Shindig or
Okay.
one of those kind of bands would play live, mime,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
right.
anyway, one night, Andrew Bown and Gary Taylor, the two people in the Herd, which were the top local band, had seen me, and they came backstage after the show and they said, "What would you think about we need a rhythm guitarist for the summer. Will you sit in before you go back to school?" And so I said, "I'd love to. I'd have to see, with parents, because I'm still only 15 or whatever." And so I did that. But the time when you have to make a decision if you're dropping out or you go back to school to do your A-level exams, advanced level, they said, look, we're changing the band around. Would you become the lead guitarist and join the band and come on the road? And
Lead vocalist, lead guitarist, right? And
well,
lead vocalist.
no, I was just a backing singer.
Oh, okay.
That was the whole thing about the Herd. I joined
Oh,
as ooby dooby doo guy, ooh, ah, and so and then as soon as that happened, we got a residency at the Marquee Club
oh, I heard that.
in the summer must have been 66, 67, around there. And record producer came and saw us, and that was it. We started making records. So and then the writers who were our managers, Howard and Blakely, when they said, because they will write the songs, you can have the B-side, but we'll write the songs. They were very well respected hit writers. And so they wrote this song for us called I Can Fly. It was 67 because it was the same year as Sergeant Pepper coming out. And
Right, and Whiter Shade of Pale the same year too.
yeah, exactly. And so they said, here's the song. They played the song. We went, oh, that's good. And and then they said, and Peter's going to sing it. And we went, huh?
Wow.
I'm not. I said, no. I'm the guitar player. I do a little ooh and ah, but I sang 2 songs in the set. That's all. They had seen me sing. So, and then the other 2 were going, and I didn't blame them. That was the last thing I thought I was going to hear, was that. So I ended up being from that meeting singing on that record, which was a flop, but it introduced us. And then the next record from the Underworld came up. Guess who sang it? Me again. So
Wow.
I became the face of the band.
And that lasted did it last even a couple of years?
Couple of years, yeah. Well, I was in the band from 66 to 68. We had like three big hits, Top of the Pops, all that business.
Right.
And met all these, like you said, look,
Yeah.
is that,
Exactly.
and then that's when we dumped all the management and record company and everything, because someone was taking money and we didn't know who it was.
What
So
else
anyway,
is new in
long story short,
Yeah.
Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane call us up.
They were in Faces, right?
They were in the Small Faces
Small
at the
Faces.
time, and said, look, we've heard you're having some issues. We've been through this. Can we help you? And so we went down, Andrew Bown and I went down to Steve and Ronnie's cottage in the country. And basically Andrew left that night and I stayed, and we formed Humble Pie from then on.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't long before Humble Pie was formed,
Wow. And that was the cottage, sadly, where he lost his life, right?
No, that was in
No?
Marlow. It's a couple of cottages further on, but it was a cottage. Yeah.
There's so many ups and downs when you get into your 60s and 70s. There's a million great stories and a million shit stories. But that's what life is. I mean, life comes at you, in some crazy ways. I was thinking about some of the gigs I had as a young comedian, and I've been talking about it on some of these shows, that are doing spoken word in front of 10,000 or 15,000 or even 3,000 if they're not there to see you, is just horrifying. But it's
right.
And I'm not trying. I mean, you deserve to do anthems and your body work. We haven't even discussed it yet. I'm not going to just go beat by beat with you. Everyone knows Frampton, but I have to ask you. I mean, can you understand me playing a state fair with a major singing group on after me, and the grandstand was a quarter of a mile away from the stage?
Yeah.
And I had to do a half hour, and I couldn't even see the audience because there was a circus act between me and the grandstands, and they were showing freak animals from Africa. So they had like camels with 3 humps on the top and on the bottom going down. And people were cheering, look at that cow with 2 heads and no udders. It was, and I'm going, anyway, so I'm dating this girl from New Jersey. I did my 30 minutes in 2.5 minutes, and I just ran, and I had to come back at 8 o'clock. I was terrified. And then as I'm running out, some guy says to me, it was like an angel. He says, good set, Mr. Lewis. I go, what do you mean, good set? I did 5 minutes. I'm crying. I'm out of the business. He said, nah, believe me, last week, Bill Cosby was here and he did 4 minutes. So, really? Wow. I never knew that. My first apartment, I'm just flashing on this now, but I lived up north of Sunset Strip. And when I used to walk out and be by the pool, and I would look right up and across near about 4 or 5 blocks away I think it was the A&M lot. It must have been, I think, for that, ridiculously successful Frampton Comes Alive album, which, and you had a billboard the size of my apartment. I always said, God, and of course I had the album. I don't think there's only 3 people that didn't have the album. They were all thrown in jail and given the death sentence.
And one of them was Alice Cooper. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. But did you know what was the set? I have to just ask you this because everyone knows you're genius as an artist. But that album is worth mentioning because it's such a monumental album in rock history. What did you know before the tour? What I hate these kind of questions too, but did you plan to do an album like this with the set list that you had? I mean, what was your mindset before you taped some of these live shows? And it was from a lot of different venues.
Well, in the end, it was from more than one, but we just we were following Humble Pie's trajectory. So Humble Pie had 4 studio albums, 2 of which were with A&M, and then everyone decided, band and management and record company, Jerry Moss, we'd do a live record. So we recorded at the Fillmore and did Rock in the Fillmore, and it was a huge hit. I left before it came out, but that's another story. But the thing is that with me, I was now at 4 studio albums with A&M, and it was time to do the same exact thing. And so we had regional places that we were in the old days before radio got sort of one station. You could actually have a regional hit. They're big in San Francisco, but they suck in Mobile or whatever, or New York.
It's the same with comedians, believe me.
And so there were like New York, Detroit, and San Francisco were the 3 places we were bigger,
Right.
So because of the tour, we decided to do it at Winterland in San Francisco. And we basically were there to record the whole show. We did 2 nights at the Marin Civic Center just before. The acoustic numbers on the record come from there because it's a slightly warmer, smaller building. And then 90% of the whole album comes from Winterland, which was like in July of 75 or June 75, June 14th or 15th, something like that. And then we came back and we mixed. At this point, I hadn't really had a huge seller. The Frampton record before it got me in the charts and sold a few, which I was but my manager said, let's just do a single live album because, the double is going to cost a lot more. I don't know whether Jerry's going to fire you or sign you again. I don't know. We don't know. We got to play.
Jerry Moss, one of the, he was, right.
So Jerry, we mixed one album. It only had 5 cuts on it, and 3 on side 1 and Lines on My Face and Do You Feel on the second side, which is the same as side 4 eventually. And then So Jerry came to New York to Electric Lady, where that man behind you built the studio, Jimmy. And we'd mixed one album. And so he sat down in front of the console, so I couldn't see him. And we played both sides of the single live album. And I just remember his head just coming up slowly over the console, over the meters. And he goes, "Where's the rest?" I said, "You want a double album?" And he goes, "Of course I do." I said,
Wow.
"Oh, we were being, frugal."
Yeah, I bet.
And so I said, "But we don't have good versions yet," because they were new to the act of "Show Me the Way," "Baby I Love Your Way," and one other. I forget what it was. So that wasn't even on the single album. None of those were on the single album.
Wow.
And so we went out, and Chris Kimsey recorded "Baby I Love Your Way" in Plattsburgh, New York, at a college. And then Eddie Kramer recorded "Show Me the Way" at Long Island, Comac, Long Island, in the hockey rink there, which no longer exists. And that was it. And then we put it all together, and then it became the double live. And Jerry's great idea, I believe it was Jerry, was let's it's a double album, but let's charge just $1 more than a single album. And bingo, that was a great idea.
Wow, how cool is that?
So instead of if it was $6.98,
$1 more. He said let's charge $1 more for the
yeah.
People will think they're getting a whole album for $1.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great idea. It was great enticement to buy it. So if it was $6.98 for a single, it was now $7.98 for a double, or 7 and 8. I'm not sure where we were at that point, but I think it was $6.98. And so anyway, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I know. I promised you I wouldn't keep it this long on this very tight, prepared. Don't worry. Oh, is that a watch or your wrist? Oh, I know you're going back on. You've been on tour, and now you're home for a stay, and then you're going back out
Wednesday. Yeah.
How this is a very important tour for you, clearly.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
It's the most joyous tour I've ever done, because I had quit. We went in November. We got shut down after the finale tour in America and Canada because of COVID in 2020. And then last year in November, I managed to re-up the dates in Europe. And then we went and did the finale tour in Europe. Then I came back here in January and did Sky Arts show, just an invited audience for Frampton Comes Alive special kind of thing for England. And then I thought, I went home after that night and I went, there's still, I might be adapting a little bit. I can't do everything I could do before, but boy, am I having fun playing. And I said, what am I going to do? Sit home. So I called up management agency and everything and said, okay, can you get me a tour by June? This is in January, and they said, what, you mean June 2024? I said, no. I mean, this June. So we start, and they hustled and they got a great tour. It's been fantastic.
That's brilliant. And where are you going? Where's this next?
The next stop? We've done Florida, East Coast, Midwest so far. And now we're going to the West Coast. The closest we get to you, I think, is Santa Barbara. But yeah, we're doing 8 more shows there. And so at the end of this leg, before I got home, even when I was really tired, because it is emotionally draining out there, because this tour is so special, because it's the bonus tour. I never thought I'd be doing this,
I can't talk you into doing one in my backyard, can I?
Yes, you can. I'll play anywhere now, even your backyard.
I don't want to use the Parkinson's disease card on you, but I'm not going to be traveling that much.
I know.
To venues.
Well, we could do a Parkinson's IBM a charity gig in your backyard.
I'm way up for that. I'll do 5 minutes and you do 5 hours. But I'm so proud of you, and people have to know that it's been well publicized, like, what you're fighting. And I came out of I was never in the closet. I just wanted people to know that I have Parkinson's and that I'm doing the best I can. And you still have the strength to do your shows. And I've seen them. I went on YouTube. The place goes wild. They're so happy that you have the courage and the strength to play so great, even on you call the finale tour. I'm so happy for you. I can't express it, Peter. Everybody loves you, and everybody is proud of you, and I just can't wait to hear how the next stint goes. I don't like to say the last stint. I work this year.
No. I the other day I said I got to keep playing, so we're going to do another 2 weeks in November too. But it's not announced yet. But what the hell? I don't know when it's going to be in November yet, but we're going to do another 2 weeks. I can't
fucking
stop.
Great. That's fucking great news.
Never say never is the tour. Never say never. That's what I said at the end of each of the finale shows. I would say, you know what? If I fight this thing, never say never.
Right.
And so I got my wish, which is, wow, it's pretty emotional.
But that's so wonderful. I didn't know that you're extending it. Some of my old specials, the names I had were I'm in pain, I'm exhausted, I'm doomed. I had one, the Magical Misery Tour, and Tracks of My Fears. That was another one. So now I really have a disease, and I'm fighting, but I did curb this season, and I probably had Parkinson's during it, but it just, to me, the impact for me is my walking. Sometimes I freeze, and it's pretty freaky. I take some deep breaths, and I can walk again. But it doesn't bode well for being on stage as a stand-up, obviously. So I'm just going to do what I can do, stay creative, and having friends like you, not just because you're you, but because you're so supportive to me and what I'm battling, and you, and I love you so much, Peter. And this is going to mean a whole lot. This is going to be a whole lot to the people that watch this very slick podcast. And you can call me after dinner and tease the shit out of me. So just tell me when you're leaving. When do you go off again?
We leave. I fly out to Oregon. We start in Troutdale on the 10th. So I'll be flying out on the 9th, on Wednesday.
All right. Well, God bless you, buddy. And we'll stay in touch with you while you're on tour.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. I'm always thinking about you.
All right. I'll probably text you in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And now you can turn your ego statue around, and it looks better just as a squirrel. I don't want people to think, because you're such a humble person, and to have Julius Caesar behind you, and also where you're living, all the English, I know Ronnie Wood and rest his soul, Procol Harum, those two guys are gone, and Ringo. Where do you live? Craven Hills Ass Twist. The names you have, Raven Balls. I mean, you have great names for, you just don't live in an apartment or a condo or a house. I live in Cravenville, Schmilmanhomen, Crap and Crow. Who names these things? Is it just ego? Are you allowed to name your castles, or you just?
No, I think that was probably a German person named that one. I think.
Okay, let's not get off on this one. Thanks for showing up today, Peter. I love you, and stay well.
You too, Richard.
All right, buddy. See you
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.